With the development of the society and the change of people's perspective, the issue of gender pay gap for women has been decreased over time. However, it has been a serious issue for a long time all over the world in history, and it still exists even now. Today, we're going to talk about the gender pay gap in history. So, how is that an issue, or how exactly the gender pay gap has been a problem for women? The answer is simply gender inequality. Even in a country as wealthy and developed as the US, women still experience major inequality in the workforce. By some estimates, women earn only $0.77 for every $1 earned by men. Globally, the gender gap is even wider. Women earn only one tenth of the world's income despite working two-thirds of the total work hours. Gender pay gaps persists around the world, including in the United States. According to public information collected by the International Trade Union Confederation, the global gender pay gap ranges from 3% to 51% with a global average of 17%. Equality in pay has improved in the US since 1979 when women earned about 62% as much as men. In 2010, American women on average earned 81% of what their male counterparts earned. But as we can see, even in 2010 in the US, the average American women earn is still 19% less than men. Gender inequality always exists no matter when.
The real wage gap is more than the annual salary. The average man makes $10,169 more than the average woman each year in the US. The pay gap is various depending on the location, race, and industry. In California and Washington, D.C., for example, the gap is smaller than the average at just 11 cents, while in Louisiana, the gap widens to 31 cents. A woman's race also plays an important part. Latino women make just 53 cents for every dollar white men make, and for Asian American women, the number is 85 cents. That's just the base salary. Besides the race, the wage gap also happens in different industries. The US soccer team is a good instance. From Brandy Chastain scored a winning penalty kick in the 1999 World Cup to 2019 World Cup favorite US team, the women's national soccer team has excelled on a global stage and inspired girls and boys around the country to take up this game. However, women's national team get paid on average roughly 38% as much as the members of the men's national soccer team. And the US men have only made the quarterfinal once in 84 years and didn't even qualify at all for the 2018 World Cup. This unequal pay between men's national soccer team and women's national soccer team has become a political topic, and Harris Kamala also spoke out for it. She said that after winning the World Cup in 2015, the US women's soccer team was paid a third of the men's team earnings that same year. Now, the team is taking matters into their own hands to demand long overdue equal pay.
Women earn less than men at every education level. Furthermore, women earn less per hour at every education level on average, as shown in Figure A. Men with a college degree make more per hour than women with an advanced degree. Likewise, men with a high school degree make more per hour than women who attended college but didn't graduate. Even straight out of college, women make $4 less per hour than men, a gap that has grown since 2000.
Graduated between 1990 and 2006. And their data showed that men had slightly higher salaries right out of the gate. 1 year out of business school, women were making an average salary of $115,000, while men earned $130,000.
2005 study found third grade girls rated their math competency scores much lower than boys, even when these girls' performance did not lag behind that of their male counterparts. Similarly, in states where people were more likely to say that women better suited for home and math is for boys, girls were more likely to have lower math scores and higher reading scores. While this only established a correlation, There is no reason to believe gender aptitude in reading and math would otherwise be related to geography. Parental expectation can impact performance by influencing their children's self confidence because self confidence is associated with higher test score. Cultural norms will limit the occupations of the same career for women. Extreme job pressures are defined as working more than 100 hours per week, needing to be available 24/7, working with or managing colleagues in multiple time zones, and feeling pressure to put in extensive face time. As compared with men, more than twice as many women engage in housework on a daily basis, and women spend twice as much time caring for other household members. Social norms and expectations exert pressure on women to bear a disproportionate share of domestic work, particularly caring for children and elderly parents. Imagine a household where both members of a male female couple have similarly demanding jobs. One partner's career is likely to be prioritized if a grandparent is hospitalized or a children's babysitter is sick. If the past history of employer pay setting practices that disadvantage women has led to an already existing gender wage gap for this couple, it can be seen as rational for this couple to prioritize the male's career. This perpetuates the expectation that it always makes sense for women to shoulder the majority of domestic work and further exacerbates the gender wage gap. To make matters worse, when women increasingly enter a field, the average pay in that field tends to decline relative to other fields. Livano, England, and Allison found that when more women enter an industry, the relative pay of that industry 10 years later was lower. Specifically, that found evidence of devaluation, meaning the proportion of women in an occupation impacts the pay for that industry because work done by women is devalued. Computer programming is an example of a field that has shifted from being a very mixed profession, often associated with secretarial work in the past, to being a lucrative male dominated profession. While computer programming has evolved into a more technically demanding occupation in recent decades, there is no skills based reason why the field needed to become such a male dominated profession. When men flooded the field, pay went up. In contrast, when women became park rangers, pay in that field went down.
Position is to show people how gender inequality is still now affecting women and to encourage the society nowadays to shrink the gender pay gap. So, what exactly can a society do to actually shrink the gender pay gap? There's a few things that might help. First, raise the minimum wage. Women make up a disproportionate share of low wage workers. An estimate shows that difference between women's and men's occupations could account for nearly one half of the gender wage gap. Raising the minimum wage will help hardworking women better support their families. Second, raise the tip minimum wage. According to the Economic Policy Institute, women make up two-thirds of tip workers and are 70% of food servers and bartenders, occupations that comprise more than half of the tip workforce. Raising the tip minimum wage could make a real difference in decreasing the gender pay gap. Last but not least, pass paid sick days legislation. A 2012 poll found that one-third of parents of young children report that they will experience negative consequences if they have to miss work to stay home with a sick child. And as women most often are the ones who would take care of their children, Passing basic this legislation would not lose pay or their job just because they or their child fell sick.